last week you had more done on this. What happened? What happened there? Well, here's what happened. Hey knitters, welcome to episode 233 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin AT You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. I'm Knitty McPurly, Knitty McPurly on Instagram. And if you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. Sorry, this is coming to you a little bit late today. It's been a crazy morning. I'm way past coffee, like hours past coffee. So I'm drinking water out of my Arkansas Yarn Co. mug from the retreat last year. So it's my son's birthday, and there's a lot of stuff that goes along with birthdays, breakfast and presents and all that sort of thing. So we've been busy with that over here, and the podcast got backburnered a little bit this morning, but here we are. Welcome. If you are new, please subscribe. I would love it. Also, apparently YouTube likes it when you leave me comments, which you guys do a lot. I get a lot of comments, and I think that's how a lot of new knitters are finding me. When you subscribe and you leave a comment, it lets YouTube know to recommend my channel to other people, and that has been great. Last week, I was in such a mind fog. I forgot my microphone. I forgot my little opener at the beginning. Like, it was total mind fog. You could see why I was all into the stockinette knitting last week, although it was fraught with just craziness. So I'll get to that in a few minutes. But I am podcasting to you today from Satan's actual butt crack. It is so hot here in Virginia. It's like 1,000 degrees with 10,000% humidity. I haven't even really been outside yet today. I feel like I went out to go to the mailbox and that was it. I'm like, that's enough. And that was early, but you could feel like the latent heat kicking up. So I am wearing my Flutterbutt shirt that we made with the Flutterbutt knit along. I got a lot of sun coming in. I love this top because it has so much room in it, but it's so cute. Like, you could wear it if you're feeling a little dumpy and you want to wear something cute. This is the perfect shirt because I immediately felt not dumpy when I put it on. So that was nice. The slub yarn mixed with the speckles just looks so interesting. Like, it's pink and it's got ruffles, but the slubs and the speckles just add so much dynamism and just interest to the shirt, I think. Some of you, I think, have a shirt just like this. Anyway, let's get on to progress and shop news. Okay, the number one thing is that we are smack in the middle of the Knitty McPurly summer sale. Everything on the website is 15% off. And while I'm talking, I'm going to be putting up pictures of items that are also already on sale. So there's lots of stuff in the shop that was already marked down, and you're adding the 15% off when you use the code KMP Summer Sale. And that code is on my little header bar on my website. So if you forgot what it was and you go to the website, there it is. So you can put some love in your cart, as my friend Lori likes to say, and check out with an extra 15% off. Like I said, all of these items are currently already on sale. It's also a great time to pick up a sweater quantity of whatever you plan to make for the fall. That would be great. If you go and you want a color on a certain base that I don't have in stock right now, you can scroll down in the base menu, and below that are options to pre-order however many skeins you want. And the good thing about that is that they will all be from the same dye lot. They will all be matched together. So that's nice when you want your sweater yarn to be as close as possible. Hand-dyed yarn does have variety. It just does. But when it all was dyed in the same pot, that helps. So, also, there is new Summer Balm in the shop. I have to go get mine. Hold on. Now I'm going to be all out of breath because I just ran up 2 flights of stairs. Okay, so there is new Summer Balm in the shop. It is Summer Citronelle. Isn't it so pretty? I just think it came out so pretty, and it's got all of the ingredients and whatnot on the back. So it comes in the 2-ounce tins, but I think these sold out. I had a lot, but the desire for the balm had been pent up for a while, so people just bought the balm like crazy. But there will be more balm coming. Not more Summer Balm. This is it, because we are entering into prime mosquito season, like August, September, October, prime mosquito season. So here it is in the 1/2-ounce stick. Now, the great thing about the stick is that you can put it on like this and get rid of any like premature hand wrinkling. No matter how old we are, the wrinkles are premature. And it smells great. It's lemony, and you can do it like this, and then it's not on your palms. And that's really nice. That's the good thing about the stick, and I still have these. I made more of these, so there are more of these available. Also, and I get requests for this a lot, because at times I would make lip balm, but I hadn't made it in a while. And I get lots of requests for it. So it is finally here. It has super pretty packaging. Got the KMP, unscented lip balm. And I'm just going to pop this open. It's my first time opening this one. There we go. And I'm going to put it on right over my lipstick, which is going to get lipstick on there. But then other people will know not to use it. It is so good, you guys. It is so like creamy. And it has been described as luscious. One person said that one time, and I have repeated it 1,000,000 times. So all of these things, except for the tins, are available over on the website. And you can get 15% off. So it's a good deal. You should go and get some now. All right. My personal progress has been a disaster. And I wish I could tell you that it's because my dog died, but it wasn't, because I started all of these projects before that happened. So you remember the wisteria tank debacle, where, I mean, you can even tell just with me holding it up that these two things are not the same. The armholes came out 2 different sizes. So I have not had the wherewithal at all to touch this project because of the grief, as you know. I did pick up my Vivian tee a good bit. I mean, you know, I worked on it for a while, and I still got just a few more rows in. I didn't get very far. But it's a fingering weight top that's all cables. So it's slow going. But what I really want to tell you about is my crisscross tee. Okay, now you might be saying, Devin, last week you had more done on this. What happened? What happened there? Well, here's what happened. So the bottom of this tee has a split hem. Okay, so what that means is you cast on the front, I think, first, and then you knit like an inch or so. Then you cast on the back and you knit an inch or so, and then you join them and you work them in the round. So just a little background on how it started. Last week, I got to the point where I was ready to split for the front and the back to work them separately. And I was looking at it going, that doesn't look right. So here's a picture of the crisscross tee. And the most interesting and special part of the top is this area right here. It has to look like that, or the whole crisscross look is off. It's wrong. Okay. So what I did was this. If I have a picture, I'll put it here. I think I took a picture. Hopefully I didn't delete it. This is what I did. Instead of having the purl stitches on the right side, I had the knit stitches on the right side. So I had these 2 wrong stitches all the way up the front. And I thought, this is the most important part of the sweater. You can't ruin the most important part of the sweater and have it come out okay. Okay, so I can't live with it. Definitely hard no on that. So I was faced with two options that I saw in the moment. And if you think of another one, let me know. Option one is to just take out those 2 stitches all the way down. And that, I could have done that. That would have been something I could have done. What you do is you secure all the other stitches except for the 2 that you want to remove, and you just remove them through every row, and then you have to go back and work them again the proper way. Now, that would have been less work, but it was more fiddly. And I didn't mind doing more stockinette. I just didn't want to do the fiddliness. So that would have taken less time to just do it like that. Probably would have been a better choice for a lot of reasons, but it's not what I wanted to do. So my first instinct when I saw this is, oh my gosh, the reason I messed this up is because I am working it inside out. That's what happened. But then I thought, no, because I started it working it flat. Do you know what caused this problem, folks? Do ya? If you have been watching this show for any length of time, then I bet you do. Devin did not read carefully. I just, in my brain, had this flashback to like my early report cards, like when I was in like 1st, 2nd grade. And they always said, you know, Devin is very bright and she's very social and, you know, she's a joy to have around and those nice things that the teachers write. But she doesn't read carefully and she goes too fast and she makes mistakes. So I guess I come by it honestly. That's just what I tend to do. I mean, I'm not one of those people who says, you know, that's just how I am. I have to live with it. But what I know what I need to do, I need to slow down and I need to read carefully, because this pattern, and here I'm going to throw shade on the pattern. I want to blame the pattern like it's its fault. It doesn't say things like, it tell you what to do for one round and then say, okay, continue to work in pattern. Because if it said that, I would take its words more seriously. But because every time you're doing something slightly different, it rewrites the directions for you over again. And you're like, okay, well, do I have to read these or am I just working in pattern? And so there's that. Also, I was glancing up and down and the 2 paragraphs, well, you know, they're not paragraphs, but the 2 sets of directions that were different, where one was working on the right side, one was working on the wrong side, and it said knit, knit instead of purl, purl. And so I knit, knit instead of purl, purl, and that's what happened. You guys, we're here for the comedy, right? That's what we're here for. So once I realized that the problem was not because I am working it on the wrong side, and the reason I'm doing that is because the right side is the reverse stockinette. So here it is on the right side, and you see the gap between the 2 columns of stitches that make the crisscross, the totally necessary thing. So I am working the right side. I'm working on the wrong side so that it's just more purling and less knitting. So once I realized that that was not the problem, I just went ahead and read carefully, recast on, and I got this far, which is pretty good because I feel like it was soon after last week's podcast that I realized that this had happened and that I was going to have to fix it. And so I've had, you know, like most of a week to work on it. But really, that's all I've gotten done. It's been a busy week. Plus, there has been grieving, as you know. One other thing that we worked on, and I'm just going to show this briefly. I'm not going to go into it too much. My favorite is like his gangster selfie right here. So the girls and I have been working on the Rocky Scrapbook, which is a great grief project. Not as good as a new puppy, but it's been good. Okay, so, and that is a good segue into the comment section because there were so many extremely kind comments about the loss of my dog Rocky, who died 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And so many of you shared your stories of dog loss. And, dogs just don't live that long. Like, our dog, it was only 4 years, obviously, but, even a dog that lives a long time, that's like 18 years. So we're all going to lose dogs at some point or other. In our family, our personal belief about dog heaven is that there is not a separate dog heaven. We think that dogs go to people heaven because I think that dogs are God's gift to us. And I think that we get them in heaven too. That's just what I think. Somebody tell Barbara Walker, maybe she'll come back. Some people took issue with me saying last week that Rocky was just a dog. And what I meant was he's not a person. The loss of human life is not the same as the loss of dog life, which is why we can euthanize them. But of course, Rocky was not just a dog. No dog that gets this is just a dog. So I'm not going to read all of them. Obviously, there were a million. Thank you so, so much. But I will just read a few. And about other topics too, not just the dog. Christy says, prayers for comfort on your loss of Rocky. I'm convinced the Lord has a special place in heaven for the family pets that give us such joy and companionship. So glad you will be carrying Chestari yarns. I read Vanishing Fleece and found it fascinating in a sad sort of way. It will be great to be able to support local Virginia yarn producers. Yes, I actually recently downloaded Vanishing Fleece onto my, I almost said iPod. What's it called? My phone. And I couldn't get into it. It has a tone that just annoyed me to death. And so I did not listen to the whole thing. Is Frances in the book, or were you just saying that, it reminded you of the other farms in the book? Because yes, it is really sad, the changing of the American wool industry. And gosh, that's the understatement of the century, the ending of the American wool industry. And interestingly, when I talked to Frances about that, I said, what do you think was the number one cause of the wool industry's downfall in the US? And he said, synthetic fibers. That was the number one thing. After that, he talked about, other outsourcing to other countries and whatnot, but synthetic fibers. And he's like, wool is great. People should be wearing wool all the time. And cotton, like we should be wearing these natural fibers. I wear wool and cotton a lot of the time, but I also do wear synthetic fibers. I know a lot of you out there have strong opinions about this, so feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Crystal says, so sorry for your loss. I love your podcast and all of your Catholic references. I live in South Carolina and there aren't many of us around. I was watching one of your episodes on my phone and my 22-month-old daughter, Gemma, put her face really close to the screen and kept saying, wow, wow. She was very impressed with your knitted garment being shown at the time. She didn't want to stop watching. She must have great taste. I love that. If 22-year-old me were put in front of an iPad looking at knitted things, I think I would have had the exact same reaction because I've always been drawn to stuff like that. So stuff that's been sewn, handmade garments, everything. Love it. Dilly Dahlia says, I'm so sorry about the loss of your precious Rocky. They're most definitely members of the family. It's completely understandable that the only thing you have headspace for is stockinette in the round. This past February, my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Getting through all the appointments, the biopsy, the decision-making around treatment, and then the surgery was tough. All I could do was to work on my Musselburgh hat. It is the perfect project for those bumpy parts of life. Agreed. Stockinette in the round. Like when you are having grief or like trauma, which I would describe, with your husband being sick, you can't, it's like you're in a fog. You have to pay attention not to run red lights, like you're in a brain fog. And so stockinette in the round is just perfection for that. Martha said, I've knitted with Chestari yarn before and found it quite lovely to work with. I would love to get my hands on more. Well, you will be able to, Martha. Frances and I, we have done the deal. It's just a matter of the wool and cotton being prepared and spun and made for me and made for you, made for us. So I'll just tell you right now, it's woolen spun that's half, Rambouillet wool and half cotton. And I told Frances, I was like, I've never heard of woolen spun yarn that's half Rambouillet and half cotton. I've just never heard of that. So I hope it's unique and that the only place you can get it is Knitty McPurly. It's going to be amazing. I cannot wait. Okay, moving along to knitting fantasies. So I did go to Ravelry and get my knitting fantasies today. I don't often use Ravelry. I do sometimes because I like to see when things are new. I didn't see a lot that I liked. And that's not always true. But today I was just like, gosh, it was hard for me to find things that I liked. And the first pick is called the Thelma Pullover by Sari Nordland, who is the designer of the Vivian T. She is a wonderful pattern writer. I think the Vivian T is beautifully written. I think it's beautifully designed. It's also extremely, I don't want to say difficult, but intricate. And even with that, it's a great pattern. It's not a beginner pattern. So I don't know if her other patterns are more beginner friendly. I'm not sure. But this one does also not look like a beginner pattern. This is a free pattern. I don't know how long it's free, but it's free now. So if you're interested, go download it. It comes in 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 sizes, which is really nice. It goes from 34 inches to 65 inches. So that's really nice if you want to use a different weight of yarn. I somehow did not, looks like a fingering weight to me. I don't have in front of me what weight of yarn it is, but it looks like a fingering weight to me. So if you wanted to use a thicker yarn, you could knit a different size. So go over to my website, get the gauge switcheroo worksheet, and you can plug in your numbers and do the math to figure out which size you need to knit for the gauge that you're using with your different yarn choice. Anyway, free pattern, probably beautifully written, looks great. My second pick is by Tanis Lavallee. It is the Getty Tee, and it is so cool. It's so different. I love the granny square shoulders. This is just so cute. This has everything that I like. It is in DK weight yarn, which is, as you know, the best weight. It is a short sleeve top. I love how hers is so basic in a gray with the bright granny squares. It's just so interesting. I love it. I guess it came out back in April, but I did not see it then. So here you go. Also, she's using a US 6, which is, I would use a 5 or a 6. As a loose knitter, I might go down to a 5. I'm not sure. But this also comes in 8 sizes. From 39 is the smallest size, and Tanis is tiny, so she must be wearing the smallest size. So it has some ease in it, and it goes up to a 67. So, you know, that's nice as the finished size. So if you do want extra ease in there, you've got it written into the pattern. So this pattern is $9, but there's a lot of projects on Ravelry too that you can look through and see what color choices people used. Super, super cute. I really, really love it. Okay, today's So Here's What Happened comes to us from a lovely podcast watcher named Joyce. Hi, Joyce. Thank you so much for sending in your story. To the rest of my watchers, if you have a knitting story, please send it to me, Devin with an I at KnittyMcPurly.com. I would love to feature your story on my podcast. It's everybody's favorite part of the podcast. Whether you have a heartwarming, heartbreaking, disastrous, hilarious story, send it to me in any form that you want. You can take a video, you can do an audio recording, or you can type it out and I'll read it for you. People love this segment, so send me your story. Okay, Joyce says, last July, we took a 2-week riverboat cruise on the Mississippi River. That sounds awesome, by the way. I'm just going to stop Joyce here for a second to say that sounds amazing. I am not a cruise person. Like, I heard about the poop cruise. Did you hear about the poop cruise? And that's like my worst nightmare. That and the one in Italy where the boat was like, and the people had to swim to shore. So And the Titanic. I mean, these things happen, people. So cruises kind of freak me out. But I feel like I could always swim to the shore if it's the Mississippi. Okay, back to Joyce's story. We boarded the boat in Memphis and began sailing north, which is upriver, toward the planned destination of St. Paul, Minnesota, so far, all the way up. One of the stops we made was in Paducah, Kentucky, a small town in western Kentucky. We enjoyed the National Quilt Museum and walking around the quaint little town. But unfortunately, their local yarn store was closed on the day we were there, and I didn't get to check out the shop. We continued to cruise north on the Mississippi River, enjoying the planned excursions all the way to St. Louis, including the Gateway Arch National Park and a tour of the city. We docked right by the St. Louis Arch, and we were there on the 4th of July, so we got to watch the city's major fireworks display, which was set off from a barge in the middle of the river near our boat. The experience of watching the fireworks under the arch right on the river was totally amazing. I bet it was. You may remember that last spring, the Midwest had record rainfall and many towns and farms were flooded. We heard that the water on the Mississippi was rising fast. The cruise company let everybody know that they wouldn't be able to complete the cruise and offered all the passengers the option to leave the boat in St. Louis or to turn around and continue the cruise on the lower Mississippi. Some passengers took the option to leave the cruise at this point. We chose to stay and finish the course. The river rose so fast overnight by the next morning, once the departing passengers were off the boat, that the boat had to cut its mooring lines, lower the antennas, and back out under the bridges and railroad trestles to head back south down the river. So I guess that is one downside of a river cruise, is that when the water rises, you notice. It's not so much on the ocean. Okay. Thus, unfortunately, the excursion we had planned for the upper Mississippi didn't happen, but the cruise company booked other excursions for those of us that chose to stay on the cruise, including another stop in Paducah, Kentucky. Luckily, this time the yarn store was open and I got to go in and check out the yarn. While examining some lovely yarn, I mentioned to a woman standing next to me that I hadn't seen this particular yarn back home in Dallas. She turned to me and said, "I'm from Dallas too." We rushed back to the husbands at the front of the store to tell our guys that we were from Dallas. The guys were sitting there surfing their phones waiting for us. Of course not talking, right? Because they're men. Men don't talk. Upon further discussion, we found out that the guys went to the same high school and graduated in the same large class. We later found out that my new friend's husband was a doctor, and he helped found the medical practice that we've been using for the past 20 plus years. Also, we lived about 3 miles away from each other. So of course, I had to invite my new friend to my crafting group, and she has become a valuable part of the group. By the way, neither of us has done anything with the yarn we purchased at the Paducah yarn store. She says we also went back to Paducah for a third time to pick up supplies on that cruise. In addition, we pass Paducah each time we visit family in Kentucky, with very little chance of us visiting Paducah for a fourth time, although it's a lovely little town. Well, the thing about a little town is that once you've been there 3 times, you've seen and done everything. That's it. It's got nothing else to offer, probably. What a great story, Joyce. I love that. I responded to Joyce in an email and I said, that's so much like what meeting Francis was like. We just had so many things in common, even though he's 89 and we're 47. Like we knew a lot of the same people. We, ran in a lot of the same circles because he's also Catholic. And it was just great. So I love that. Thank you so much for sending me your knitting story, Joyce. I hope you all are having a beautiful, wonderful weekend in the air conditioning, or at least in a place that's not as hot as this. All right, you guys, I will see you next week. Have a great weekend. See you next time.